Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Full Quota podcast. My name is Mpho and Team. I've got Tim Delace here with me. We are a South African podcast, a cricket podcast. We talk all things South African cricket. We are on Mondays, and we are live on YouTube and on Facebook as well as X. Please follow us at the Full Quote Podcast on all of those podcast on all of those platforms. Sorry, English is evading me. Okay, and and also like and subscribe. Subscribing helps because then you know when we go live, so you don't have to worry about when the next podcast is coming out. Well, obviously, we go on every Monday, and that's how we do it. We also have an audio platform called Full Quota Podcast on Apple Podcast and Spotify. So go look out there and type in the word Full Quota Podcast. Everything's at the bottom there, so it's all sorted. It's a new Monday. Last Monday we were sad. It looked really bad. During the week we watched India have their parades and their parties, and you just sitting there going, if only Heinrich Klaassen didn't chase a wide one, it would have been us. We would have had a week filled with celebrations, but we didn't. Proteas came back. Only 4 guys came back who weren't playing in the Major League Cricket. And but still lots of news happening in South African cricket. And it was a great time for us now. And this is what today's show is going to be. We're going to talk Proteas Women, as well as the men's test squad that was announced for the West Indies test. But before we do everything else, Tim, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, but I'm fully recovered from the World Cup loss. I'd almost forgotten about it until you mentioned it. I'm in full Red Ball format. Full Red Ball format.
It's just weird. It feels like we went in a World Cup final, but I guess the losers, you kind of get over it a lot quick. Well, not necessarily over it a lot quicker, but it was just like life moves on. Whereas with the Springboks are like sitting here 6 months after winning the World Cup, and they're still partying. Shout out to those crowds at Loftus. One day we hope we get a crowd like that at the Wanderers for a really, really big game, or even but the Wanderers and Centurion always have good crowds, Tim. It's your people that side with the rain this week that don't come to cricket anymore, but.
It's always good crowds. Don't come with that slander.
Okay, cool. Okay, let's go into it. This week, in the midst of the World Cup fever, the Proteas women are still in India. They play one more game tomorrow in a T20, and then they come home. And the results have gone like this. They've lost 3 matches in the ODI, wide-watched in the ODI series. The test match, they lost by 10 wickets, even though it was in the final session of the game in itself of the 5 days. So they did a really good job to kind of take it there after conceding 600 runs. They conceded 500 in one day. It was in day one. I started watching at about 6 o'clock. I watched until the first changeover of fast bowlers. Masabata class off. They bring on Dumi, and I sat there going, we're not taking wickets today, but we'll talk about that. And then obviously they had a T20 series where South Africa actually did well. They scored, I think it was 189 and restricted India, and then went on to score 177 in a no result, but that means that South Africa can't lose the T20 series. They've lost all the other series, but they can't lose this one, even if they lose that match tomorrow. But we're hoping that they win tomorrow. We've been wanting to talk about it, Tim. We've been focusing on the World Cup. We've been wanting to talk about this team under new leadership, actually coach in Dylan de Preer, sorry. I've been talking about Darren de Pavillon the whole day because I'm like, someone needs to be in the squad. Anyway, Dylan de Preer, and it seems like in the ODI series, Tim, I thought the ladies weren't responding to Dylan as much as we thought we would have gotten. Some like bounce back, some new what do we call it? It's a new bounce. When a new coach comes in, right? And then you thought,
It's
yeah,
used a lot in
that would
football
happen.
terms. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that didn't happen. It didn't happen in the test match, but we just saw some sort of, so those two batting innings we had in the test match were very good. We didn't get to we managed to get over the 600 target they set, but you kind of saw some fight in some of the players. And then obviously we'll talk about why the test team plays this badly and we need to fix it. And then on top of that, in the T20 series, then you saw the bounce and you're like, oh, the new manager bounce is there, because it's the first time in a while where I've seen our T20 side chase down a target of above 177. You put 177 on the board, or on the board against the Proteas, asking them to chase. Most likely 7 out of 10 times they don't get there. So that was a good thing. But how have you characterized the series? And then we'll go into the different aspects from ODI tests and T20s.
Yeah, like it definitely took a bit of time, and I still don't think one series is enough if you're going to give Dylan a proper chance, proper ability to put his statement on the side. It's not enough time, but I do think it was a slow start to the series. It was a bit tough. I think they were mostly outplayed in the ODIs. And I think in that test match, I think we saw a bit more of what Dylan wants, what he wants to do. And I saw definitive plans from the Proteas batters. I genuinely thought definitive plans. I actually thought the definitive plans actually put them in the end, but we won't get into that. And then in the T20 so far, they look happy. It's the one series where they actually look happy. They're playing with freedom. They're playing without risk. Yes, they've lost 2 series in a row, but they look a happy camp in this T20 series. They look a lot happier, and they're getting contributions from various members of the team. They're not just relying on 1 or 2 individuals. So I think there are positives to take out of it. If you look beyond the results, there definitely are positives, but there are the same weaknesses. Marginally improvement to the batting, but the weaknesses to the bowling in whatever format are really exposed. They really are exposed at the moment.
Yeah, and it's the bowling that's the thing that's hurting the side throughout all 3 formats. I think in T20 they're managing to get through it a lot because Aya Bongakaka is still there, but she's not an express pacer. In the ODIs, you need an express pace bowler to kind of fit the Shibnim role. You can't necessarily be reliant on Marazan Cup, even though we've gotten by with Aya most of the times and Masabata Class and Dumisi Kukune, but it's always felt a bowler light in the ODIs, and that's what the series was. And then on top of that, adding on to the batting, the ability to play spin, and the team just looked like it was their first time in India, and it's their 3rd tour to India in the last 6 years. And in the first tour, when they were in Surat, you could see that they were like learning on the job, and a lot of the ladies who were still here were there. And that was the disappointment for me from a batting perspective. You needed the likes of Sunil Luce to step up, and good thing she's managed to start stepping up in that last ODI, and then it moved into the test match. Tasman Brits was 50-50 and a little off color. Laura Wolfart, when she scored runs, South Africa was in the game. When she didn't score runs, South Africa wasn't. Marazan Cup, same thing. And you can rely on that fall. And then everyone else around them chipping in. But the problem at the time in the ODIs, those players around them, Annika Bosch, Anu Dirksen, they weren't chipping in. Snala Jafta, with the bat, had 1 good innings. I think it was in that first ODI. But still, she's not one I'm going to rely on in getting runs. And I think those are the type of things we need to sort out. I think we need a wicketkeeper who can bat in the top 6. And I think from a bowling perspective, you need another pacer in there. You also need to get another top class spinner in there. Nondu is great. But I see the value she adds to the ball, but with the bat, it's not that great. And for her to bat at 7, that didn't make sense to me, even though I know she's captain of the winning Dolphin side. There were other Dolphins players I think that could have gotten a call up, and I've spoken about this on many shows. Alex Candler was the name that I had there. And to a certain extent, it was disappointing because that's the format we play. That's a format you can be comfortable with, and you can see people coming through, because in the professional domestic setup in South Africa, they play a one-day cup and they play a T20, right? And so you can't say that they can't, but then this massive regression in terms of bowling has been a problem. And then the question is, who's opening the bowling in domestic cricket? And it's the same names that are here. Aya does that. There's a lot of older players who've played for the Proteas in the early 2000s who aren't coming in, and to a certain extent, there isn't the younger players, the younger players coming through to open the bowling as a quick, and that's the worry. Ayanda Hlubi is the only one who's come up, and she's come from under 19, but we've seen that she probably needs to add a little bit of pace. Dumi is working hard to add pace. I can see that she's a little bit quicker, but she's still about 10 kilometers an hour short from where we need her to be. So for me, that's always been the issue with that ODIs, because I looked at it and I was like, no, we're on a hiding tonight thing. This team has regressed, and there's nothing that necessarily we can do right now outside of addressing those concerns in domestic cricket.
Yeah. And it is an issue. It is an issue that we've spoken about it quite a lot on the podcast. As I say, I saw lots of positives, but we desperately need pace reserves. And this week with on News 24, they were suggesting that Enoch Nkwe is talking to Shipman about coming back to the Proteas setup. Now, I want Shipman. I really do want her to come back. But that tells you just how much we are being restricted in what we have in the pace reserves in the country. Having to go back to somebody who should be happy with retirement, should be happy to play the T20 franchise setup, and isn't. It's struggling.
Yeah, and my worry, right, is we are not necessarily looking at bringing her back is not going to help. That's my worry.
It's a stopgap. It's a stopgap.
It is a stopgap, but stopgap until when, right? Because we need thingy. Oh, sorry, I'm actually looking up the Titans fast opening bowler. She's I think it's Kirsten Tapp. But yeah, it's not gonna. I don't think it's gonna help, right? Largely, it is a stopgap, but you need to address the issue. Why can't you ask who's opening in domestic cricket? There's at the Lions, there's Jamila Sheikji, who opens the bowling. She's not as quick, but she's a good opening bowler in white ball cricket. Tap at the Titans does the exact same thing. Though both are over 30, which is fine, but they can do a job, right? Ayan Masabata can do a job too, and there's a young one coming up in Mona Lisa Lachori. She's not as quick as we'd like, but we need to try something. And my answer is, yeah, fine, you can bring her back, but it won't address the issues, because fundamentally, Shabnim is one of one.
Yeah.
Right.
And we need two. We actually need in the squad. Yes, we need two.
But in the pipeline, where is she? Can he identify that person? If not, I'd rather just go through this and go through this period without her, because you can't have her there indefinitely, right? And as much as we'd like to have her there, I'd rather you go and try and solve that problem, right? And it says a lot about, it says a few things about the ladies who are opening the bowling in domestic cricket, right? It's just I don't like it. There's we've had many women's super leagues, we've had many of these tournaments, but you couldn't identify and try and build players of that nature. Obviously, I understand you probably thought Dumi would come in, but Dumi was never quick enough then anyway, and you still need to kind of get her there. The person you need to try and push is Aya. You need to try to push Aya Bongakaka to try and be a little bit quicker. She's got the height, she's got the accuracy, and that's what you want. And I think for me, that's where the bowling is. But if Shabnam comes back, that's fine, as long as you know when the next fast bowler is, right? Coming from. And I think for me, that's what you need to kind of look at, right? And I'm not worried. But anyway, shout out. Let's move to the test, right? Shout out to Cornelius and Laura Volfart. 200s in a test match, maiden hundreds, well done. Doing that was really great. And Sune, I apologize. I said you didn't need to be in the team, but I'm glad you answered the critics and you are there. You weren't playing badly, you weren't playing well, and I'm sure you would be able to admit that for the past year or so. And we wanted, the question was obviously, if you're not going to bat well, at least bowl, so we can have a reason why you're in the side. And there was a point where we thought you're being kept from a legacy perspective, but we can see she's the one player for me, Tim, that I can see the effect of a new coach on there. And I think maybe it was because they took the captaincy away that she wasn't playing well and all the other drama that was happening. But she answered the call. She answered the bell. She answered it really, really well.
She did. And what I found, I think, to touch on what you said about the coaching influence, I think it was on day 3. I think it was the end of day 3 where she was spoken. It was after she scored 100. After she scored 100, and they spoke to her, and she said the coach told us to be definitive in our movements at the crease. That either we had to be really forward or really back. We couldn't be in between. And I think that was a huge, huge reason as to why not only her, but why the South African team took that test match right until the last hour and a half of the test match. Because they were definitive against high quality spin bowling. They weren't in between. They weren't indecisive. The strokes that they made, they wanted to make. They largely played with a straight bat, which I think on a pitch that was slow and low and became more and more difficult to bat on was crucial. It's just unfortunate that she and Laura played cross-bat shots right at the end to get out. They did all that hard work playing the way that they needed to play in that pitch. And I think at the end, I think that my tactic on the end, sort of at the beginning of the last day, would have been, don't play back anymore because it's getting really low and really difficult. Unless it's really short, like a real half tracker, get forward. But I think a lot of them. I think Bosch as well in that second innings played really, really well. They just chewed up a lot of deliveries. They made a big point of it. It wasn't about scoring runs. It wasn't about rotational strike. It was about batting for time. And I thought they showed just what is possible in conditions that are very, very foreign to them. So they can take a huge amount of credit for them, despite having such a terrible day on the first day.
Yeah, look, I think you can look at it as they had one bad day, and it was largely because of their bowling. Marizan not being able to bowl, Henry Dirksen having been brought into the squad and not being able to play to start. That kind of set them apart. Kind of like hurt the team. I think Elise Marie Marks as well was supposed to play, but didn't end up because of some sort of illness. And then obviously then you look to the bench and you give to me bowled a hard heart. She just couldn't. And a lot of our bowlers are, wicket to wicket, nothing to bother any batter. You don't give them any test outside of how accurate can they be and how focused the batter is in terms of playing from there. And it was just sad. We were on a hiding to nothing on day one. We were always going to be a hiding to nothing. Even if India didn't take the follow on, they probably scored another 500 in a day because our bowlers went up to it, and not having Marizan just really hurt. But from a batting perspective, as you say, Tim, well done. Like it was night and day from the ODIs to the test matches. My one thing is obviously from a selection perspective. There's a few things. We don't play 4-day cricket, right? But you can use 50 over cricket to identify some of the batters who could do well in 4-day cricket. You don't have to select guys ladies who are playing in the 1-day squad and be like, hey, you can come play test matches, right? Because I look at it and I'm sitting there going, there's, as I said, like Kaylee Tapp at the Titans. I found a name right now. It's bad podcasting, but who cares? She was really good. She's good with line and length. She's good outside the off stump. She's your good traditional 1-day opener that you can translate into a red ball situation in those first 10 overs with that ball that moves a little bit more than a white ball, right? And to a certain extent, we should have, and what you need to do is have weeks in domestic cricket, Tim, where in the 1-day setup where they play in colored clothing, but the ball's red. Just so everyone can get used to it and we can see who can thrive on it, right? We don't have it, and there's no money for us to have like a 4-day series. So the easiest way is to change the color of the ball. I don't know how that's going to work, but I think because we need to find ways to bridge the gap between 1-day and the test, rather than saying, oh, 1-day side is the test side, because that is the reason why we've lost.
Yeah. The other thing that Laura said at the post-match conference was effectively we don't have the money for a full-on 4-day series tournament. That's just a fact. But we could have a best versus best 4-day game. At the end of the season, have 1 or 2 4-day games. You pick two quality teams amongst the best teams in the best players of the country, and you play 1 or 2 games at the end of the season, just to give them a flavour of what it's like, not playing for anything except for exposure to the format, and the coaches go and they might spot a talent from playing that. I think there's no harm in playing. I think we could fit in at least a game of 4-day cricket somewhere in the season. I really think that could be, and then we could move from there. Maybe 3 or 4 years from now, we can have a 4-day competition.
Yes, and I think we need to be leading towards that, right? But obviously, as long as the ICC does not recognize women's test matches in some sort of context as they do the women's championship or the T20s with the World Cup, there's not going to be money being thrown. You see with the men's side, no one's throwing money into red ball cricket in South Africa. So it's going to be very hard for us to grow this format of the game for the women when the strategy at CSA is white ball leads the way, T20 leads the way, and everything else follows, and so there is a benefit in doing that, even if it's a practice game. You pick the top 30 players, you bring them up to Johannesburg, and you have them play 4-day cricket. Even if it's 3 days, it doesn't have to be 4 days. You just need to bat twice. That's all it is. Because you saw a little bit, and you're like, there's a chance, but we're just so so far behind with the bowling. Every test match we've played, we can bat. It's just the bowling. Australia, we just couldn't put anything on them, right? England, we just couldn't do much. And now India comes and we're playing in India and they're the closest in talent-wise to us. And we're getting ripped apart because we don't have a bowler who can bowl 120. And we need to find her somewhere. We really need to find her somewhere. Even if it's not 120, line and length, outside off stump, just being consistent. And because the bowling strategy can't be we need to bowl at the stumps all the time. It's so predictable and it's so easy and it's so slow that players can play off of it. Nadine's not that quick. Dumi's not that quick. Masabata's lost pace. So like you're sitting there going, you've got 3 bowlers, 4 fast bowlers who are all the same. There's no difference. And I really do hope there's someone at under 19 who can light us up because, it's a problem. But then, the momentum coming out of that test match, because I didn't feel it was a loss, but you kind of felt that there was a little bit of momentum. The team was starting to get things right and they were starting to gel. Into the T20s, India gave us 177. And I'm sitting there going, nah, we're done. We're done. Yeah, we are done. And then most especially because, Laura's out, 1 for 50 in that first, and you're like, ooh, can we get there? And then it was the Marizan and Tasman Brits show. Tasman Brits ending with 81 of 56, Marizan 51 of 33. It's really good to see this team batting above a run a ball. All of them, all 5 batters batted at above a run a ball, which is really, really good. And you kind of thought, oh, that's something different. That's a change. And it's a positive change. And I'd like to put that change at the feet of Dylan du Preez.
Yeah, I think that it stemmed from that test match in terms of we were occupying the crease, but we were playing with a purpose. We were playing with a purpose with the way we were playing. So I've got to repeat myself, but we were definitive in our shot making in the test match. Same in the T20s. They didn't allow the Indian spinners to control the innings. That was the key. They took the attack to the Indian spinners and they said, okay, it's a big total. Instead of saying we need to have wickets in hand and we'll go big at the back end of the innings, they put the pressure on the Indians right from the start. Even with the early wicket, they said, no, that's fine. We're going to put pressure. It's a bad ball. It's going to the boundary. It was positive, purposeful cricket. And one thing with this Indian setup, we saw it in the ODI game that we lost, that we shouldn't have lost. We saw it in the test matches. We see it in the T20s. When you put pressure on that bowling lineup, they tend to panic. They tend to panic when they don't need to. Because of our frailties in our middle to lower order, they tend to panic. They tend to try to bowl the money ball. And that plays perfectly into our favour. They get it slightly wrong and it goes to the boundary.
Yes, the batting lineup, that is. For Indian, and that was my thing. I just felt that, especially with our, the bowling lineup, sorry. Especially with our batting, you can you can be a little bit more aggressive. And we've seen the conservative South African side trying to get themselves through. We saw them at the World Cup last year. This was a completely different way of playing T20 cricket and batting. And you kind of unlocked Annika Bosch in the second match. Tasman Brits seems to be the master blaster that she used to be. Now she's back at it and being strong. Laura's following suit as well. Marazan's feeding off of them. And Chloe Tryon. And if you have a good batting lineup, as you saw with the men, you can go far in any World Cup. And we've got the World Cup coming up, and you're kind of starting to get a sense of the style of play we're going to play and how it's going to work. My worry still is the bowling. You need someone at the top to partner Aya. If it's going to be Shubnam for this World Cup, that'll be great because she's still playing and she's still good. And that's a good stopgap for the T20s, but we still need that that quick. It's imperative. I kind of feel like we're losing out on a generation of really, really talented batters, largely because we don't have a bowling lineup to back them up.
Yeah, it certainly is a problem, and I do think whatever happens, I think Dylan's got a bit of a rocky road ahead of him. It's not impossible, but it's going to be difficult. In a similar way that New Zealand cricket is having, women's cricket is having the same problems. They're not getting the youngsters, are not coming through their setup. They're struggling big time against England.
Yes.
We're having similar, not the same, but we have similar issues with not enough players coming through the system. And it's going to take a bit of time. It hasn't been there for some time. The players haven't been coming through for some time. It's going to take time for it all to streamline from under 19s all the way up. Even when we talk positively with under 19 setup, the stars of that setup are the batters. They're not the bowlers. There've been some decent bowlers, but the stars of that team are the batters.
And they are doing well in domestic cricket, and they need to find a way to come into that national team setup as well. Okay. The one other thing for me on this point, Tim, is Enoch and Gwen needs to have a plan. We need to know what the plan is in terms of addressing the issues we have in the women's setup in the women's Proteas women's team. We need to figure out what you're going to do to find a fast bowler and develop a pipeline. And yes, there's identification, there's grassroots identification, but also in the middle, what can you do with the players in the setup right now to get them to that level higher at international level? And I think that's going to be quite important. Even all-rounders, we need all-rounders. Bowling outside of Marizan Cup, Marizan is helping us, right, to carry an extra bowler, but we'd like more all-rounders to come through the system. And the fact that Sunil Lisa stopped bowling, it bothers me a lot. It does. But anyway, let's move to the other gender, the other species, the men. After World Cup loss, we now have a test series. World Test Championship is back on the books. New Zealand is forgotten about. Well, you'll find out that it hasn't. And now we have a test side. Shukri Conrad today at 10 a.m. announced the test squad to go to the West Indies. There's some very big talking points here and some walking back from some statements that happened last year that we want to talk about. So the squad that was announced, captained by Temba Bavuma, David Bedingham, Matthew Breetska makes his debut in the test squad. Nandre Berger gets a recall. Gerald Kutsia, same way. Tony DeZorzi, Keshav Maharaj, Aiden Markram. Vian Mulder comes in as the only all-rounder to the side. Lungi Ngiti, Dane Patterson, Dane Pete. The two Danes, they're back in it. New Zealand is back again in our memories. Kagiso Rabada, Tristan Stubbs, Ryan Rickleton, and Carl Verena as well. But yeah, it's so many things here, Tim. So many things to talk about. First thing to talk about is Matthew Breetska. Debut call-up. Well deserved. I know you put up a stat on X that's saying that he's the batter to have scored the most runs since the reorganization, which is about 4 years ago.
Yeah. So I think stats are important to back up selections. They're not the only thing, because I think Shukri is big on character. But 1,498 runs at an average of 49, just a shade under 50. He deserves his spot. He deserves his place. I'm delighted for him. He's put in the hard yards. He's watched his teammates from the Warriors desert him, and he's continued. He's continued to do the business. He's continued to perform.
Who's the person that deserted him?
Anymore.
They're
both the Warriors.
I know, but I wouldn't be mad if Eddie Moore left the team.
No,
but anyway, from a friendship perspective, I get it.
Yeah, from French perspective, they scored lots of runs together. Like that. That's what I'm getting at.
Okay.
Yeah, the magic might have. He's continued to score runs. That's the point. He continues to score runs, back up the numbers. And I'm delighted for him. I don't think he's going to get a play here in this series unless there's an injury. But look, it's a step into the future of what we talk about the women's. The future is bright with South African cricket with the selections that they've made. And I think it's a good selection for as a backup batter in the squad looking into the future.
Yeah, and we see the return of Ryan Rickleton along with Vian Mulder. But let's talk about Rickleton. Is he in the side as a backup batter or is he a wicketkeeper?
Backup batter, according to Shukri.
Yes. Okay, so
Shukri's
Carl
got this morning.
Verena.
Yeah, so Carl is the keeper.
Okay.
And Ryan is backup batter.
But and the thing is with Ryan, everyone's wanted Ryan in the side. Has been lighting it up. He's the reason why the Lions are 4-day champions. And he's been the best batter for this last 4-day season in South Africa. So that makes itself, right? When the last India tour was squad came up, he was the one missing, and we were all sitting there going, but do you not respect form or numbers, Shukri? Well, this is it. Shukri is letting you know that guys are getting rewarded for playing well. Another person getting rewarded for playing well domestically, but it hasn't translated into the international scene because he averages 15 in however many games he's played. I think it's more than 15 games, is Vian Mulder. And the question I ask, because Marco Jansen's not there, to you, Tim, where are the all-rounders? Surely we can't just be recycling Marco and Vian interchangeably now, because I feel that's where we're going to get to. What's happened to the all-rounders, Tim? Who is the other person that Shukri should look to? Because we know what Vian is. We know what Vian is in Protea colors. He's a shadow of the Vian who is domestically, which is a problem.
Yeah, with the bat, certainly it is an issue. But again, if you look at the numbers, since the restructuring, in terms of batting, because I think that's what his primary place is going to be in the setup. We've got a lot of bowlers in our setup. He is the best performing all-rounder in the country domestically. Now, that's not going to surprise anybody, but it surprised me a little bit. It surprised me a little bit because,
there's nobody.
I've been beating the drum of Proteas for some time, and I've been doing it for a good year now. And his numbers are good. His numbers are fine. Malta averages over 40. Proteas averages under 40. There's not a lot of difference between the two of them. But I just hope he turns the corner now. I really do, because as you say, you can only get so many chances. Even if you are the chosen one, you can only get so many chances before it becomes a case of, okay, we need to go to who's the second best and see if he does better in green and gold.
I can't trust this guy.
I'm a little bit worried. I'm a little bit worried because he has managed to play some games in county cricket this season, but because of commitments over here with our season at SAA and he hasn't played that much, but what he hasn't been performing. He hasn't been putting in the numbers.
So then, when you know this and you've seen this, why rest Marco Jansen? Why does Marco Jansen just need rest? Like I that beggars beyond belief. This is the format where Marco Jansen thrives. This is it. This is the reason why Marco Jansen is in T20 World Cup squads and ODI squads, because he gives us that extra edge at 7. And because there's no time limit or ball limit, he actually bats more sensibly in this format than in the other formats. Why not have a competition between the two? Is there something inside the resting of Marco that we should look into?
I'm going to take Shukri's word for it, but I'm not going to lie. A part of me does wonder. Look, he's playing. He's playing in America at the moment. He's not sitting at home, putting his feet up and wallowing after the World Cup defeat. He's playing cricket, so he's playing. There's two ways of looking at it. One, why would you take somebody of that potential, of that importance, out of a series like this where we should win? If we're honest, we should beat the West Indies. If he does well, he gets a huge confidence boost. He moves on from the World Cup disappointment. He scores runs, he gets wickets. And there's huge positives for him on a personal note. The wider picture is we need options. Shukri is right in that we need options in that position, and we need somebody else to put pressure on Marco and say, you know what? I'm going to perform with this series, and I'm going to put pressure on you, and you're not just going to play every game because of your 6'9" and all wonderful, talented, hard-hitting batsman and great catcher and all of this stuff. So, no, look, Marco's ceiling is high. Marco's ceiling is high, very high. He hasn't reached it, but it's very, very high. His potential.
That's what you told me about Vian.
I know. I think it's probably the right decision because I think we've got the bowling attack to beat the West Indies. I think it's the right decision. If Vian comes through and performs, it's a win-win situation. If he doesn't, and we still win the series, okay, fine. He's had a rest, and he's coming back. Marcus can come back and hopefully come all guns blazing. So you can play it both sides. I'm going to say good decision at the moment, and see what happens. But you could certainly make an argument for both sides.
I think with the importance of the series, I'd have had both. I'd rather have the option of Marco there. He's a better batter than Vian. There's no competition because just because Vian's scoring runs domestically, Marco's doing it internationally. He's able to handle the pressure that Vian doesn't, and he's a better bowler than Vian. So and Marco doesn't play domestic cricket that often because he's always with the Proteas. So what am I supposed to do? Like I'm sitting there going, Kagiso is not being rested. How? But Marco is being rested. Guys. Just tell us the truth. And the truth, I don't understand where we're going with this, man. I get he's earned the call up because of numbers, but from a character perspective, if Shuku's looking for guys with character, I don't know. Like I look at that West Indies T20 series and I have a bitter taste in my mouth. And I'm afraid that I'm going to have that same bitter taste in my mouth in this test series. We've given this guy so many chances. Yes, we need to be he needs to be redeemed. Fine, yeah. Give him a chance. At least have Marco there. Okay, fine. Next thing you'll watch, Vian Mulder's going to open the bowling. Watch. I just, yeah. I'm yeah. Okay. Cool. We'll talk about the press conference and that number 3 situation. But the Danes are back. Dane Patterson and Dane Pete. Make it make sense for me.
Dane Pete is the man that Shukri trusts and believes in. And he's the man that Dane Pete trusts and believes in because he came over several thousand miles back into the national setup to play. It makes perfect sense to me because of that relationship that they have that goes back a long, long time. So they have this relationship, they have this understanding. They know each other very, very well. Shukri knows what he's going to get from him. and Dane knows what Shukri expects from him. I was a bit worried, like you. I was hoping I was wrong, which I'm glad I've been proven wrong. I was thinking that he was only going to get those test matches in New Zealand, and that was going to be it.
Yes.
But I'm glad I was told privately that no, as Dane understands it, he is one of the options, and he wants to play for South Africa, and he's not just for one series. So I'm glad that is true. I'm glad that's true.
Tim,
yeah.
On the one Dane beat, what happened to Simon Harmer? Did Simon Harmer just fall off the earth? What happened to the 2010s bowler of the decade? What happened to him?
A new coach has different ideas, and that's as simple as it, I think.
Tim, you can't give me that. No, Tim, you can't give me that.
Like,
you can't.
I don't have any other bits of information other than that.
Tim, we've been doing this podcast for 4 years now. Simon Harmer is the one guy you've been going to bat for outside of David Bedingham. Are you not going to give us a case as to why Simon Harmer should be in the side over Dane Pete? I thought we had our two spin twins. It was Keshav, it was Simon. And I understand the whole New Zealand thing, and understand if it's the case that Dane Pete managed to negotiate a longer run than this. I know the type of guy he is. Well done, man. Well done, Dane. That's amazing. And obviously, it's not a far bridge between him and Simon. But Simon is the incumbent. Simon was the leading wicket taker in domestic cricket 2 seasons ago. What's changed? And this is the problem about this squad and Shukri's thinking. Every single test squad, there's always a change in direction. You're allowed to have a change in direction, but then where are we going? You pick guys on character, fine. You pick guys on numbers, fine. But now we're picking on character and numbers. But then when you pick someone on character, he's no longer required. It's the same thing that Heinrich Klaassen. Why was whatever, like in the last selection when they picked Kyle Verreynne, you're sitting there going, wait, what's going on with Heinrich? He's a better batter than these guys. What's going on? No, we're going in the Kyle Verreynne direction. How? Okay. Since when? And it feels like every time this man gives us a squad, you're like, how? Okay, so where are we going? And with the spin department, I don't know where we're going. I really don't. Senran Mutusami must be the most confused man in the history of South African cricket. Picked for one game was West Indies, actually. Funny enough. It's that first, the one test match. And then straight after that, you're gone. There's no hierarchy with Shukri. There's no pipeline. It's like he wakes up one morning and he's like, oh, yes. Dane Patterson and Dane Pete. And then when you ask him about Simon, he's like, no. Simon's in the plans. Guys. No. No, honestly. Anyway, that's fine. Okay. The other day.
Yeah.
Yes.
So this one, again, to me makes sense. I get it. I get it.
How?
When you have got Lungi, Rabada, Kutsia, Landry, chances are he's not going to play. What you need in a squad, what every squad needs, is a
net bowler.
It's a third goalkeeper. That guy is not going to disrupt the dressing room. That guy that is not going to be an ego. He's not going to be a Cristiano Ronaldo. He's going to get on with the business, do his utmost, give 100%, and that is Dane Patterson. Now, I'm not saying that Dane Patterson.
You just described Dane Patterson to Tom Heaton, a third goalkeeper. So effectively, you're taking this guy to be a net bowler.
No. That's being. my analogy is poor.
I like it though.
Dane Patterson is good enough to play. It's again, you want experience in that setup.
But where are we going with this?
But,
We have another. You got Kagiso. You've got Lungi. You don't need more experience. Why are we opening doors that should be closed? If there's anybody who out of New Zealand needed to go and be in this team, it's most likely Ruan de Swart and maybe Dane Pete. Right? So where are we going with this? What are we saying with all of this? Like,
yeah,
I'm just confused, Tim. Honestly, I'm just confused. I saw that. I was like, what? How?
Yeah. Again, he really, this was not so much on the Patterson situation. He was asked about Dane Pete. And Dane Pete, I don't necessarily agree with it. His performance against West Indies A last year, where he got wickets, that's effectively, to a large extent, the team that they're going to play. His experience in that, how he did there, how he bowled to those bowlers, knowing those bowlers, that played a part in his selection. I'm not sure I agree with it, but that is effectively what Shukri said.
So we're dying at the hill of guys who are available for SAA. That's effectively where we die. Meanwhile, throw Simon Harmer in there, he could have taken 10 wickets.
It's rewarding guys that... Tell you what, it's rewarding guys that stuck around. It's rewarding guys that stuck around. I have to say, if I'm a Sapabla, if I'm a Pretorius,
clearly,
I'm going to be a little bit disappointed. I'm going to want to pick up the phone and go, you know what? What did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? What do I need to do to get in? That is a question that I would ask. I absolutely would be asking if I was those guys.
I don't know. I thought it's fine. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, we've allowed this guy to pick on character. This is it. If you want to give opportunities, as you say, third goalkeeper, net bowler, will be there in case of injury. Test the depth of your fast bowling stocks. But if you ask me who is the number 5 fast bowler in the country domestically, or who is number 5 fast bowler in the country after Lungi, Gerald, Nandre, and Kagiso, Dane Patterson's not the name that comes up. Not for me. I'd even take Othniel Bartman. We like doing cross selections, don't we? Across formats. And Bartman had a great season before this last one. So what am I supposed to do? Darren DePavalon. DD. Man's been waiting for his chance. And every time he...
By a Swadapur, 74 wickets at 17 since the restructuring.
Okay. Well, we're going to the West Indies, so good luck to them. Anyway, one last point. Tristan Stubbs at 3. This man just... Oh, my word. Like, with all due respect to Tristan, even I'm like, even he should be like, coach. First drop.
Every coach has their man. Every coach, every single one of them. They've all got their man. Tristan is Shukri's man.
This is Gareth Southgate 2.0.
Yeah, Shukri 100% believes in Tristan. He battled out a nightmare at Cape Town. He battled out a nightmare in New York. He's probably going to battle on a nightmare in the West Indies of a pitch. He's given...
Look, I'm not denying the talent. I'm not denying the talent. Not. The question for me is, we're now shoehorning people in because into positions that they don't normally play. He doesn't play at 3 for the Warriors. He plays at 4, right? In that test match, he batted at 4 or 5 because Bellingham went in ahead of him at times. So what are we doing? Like, is it going to hurt? It's not going to hurt Tristan because he's fully backed. And the great thing about this guy selected in the squad, fully backed, they know where they stand. But I was just like, every time I open up X, I just find out next thing they're going to tell me, no, Tristan Stubbs is going to be an opener. We were told he was a 4. Now, no, he's not going to bat at 4. He's going to bat at 3. What's going on? Okay, maybe Timbo was injured in that India series, so yeah, you can take liberties there. So Timber's batting at 4. We have an open spot at 3 because we've dropped Keegan Peterson, and he rightfully deserves to be dropped. But you've got Ryan Rickleton who can bat at 3. You've got Bretsky who can bat at 3, who can do the job. And they're used to opening the batting and playing at the top order. But you're going to take someone from the middle order and push him up. But it's fine. It's his spot. He's the incumbent.
Yeah. The only thing I would say is he's 100% backed by Shukri. 100%. And Tristan's personality, he will rub off on that. So it wouldn't at all surprise me that he scores runs. But do I want him at 3 against Australia? I'm not so sure.
I don't want him at 3 against the West Indies.
If I want him at 3 in England against England,
no,
not so sure. So it's a tricky one because look, maybe we will have egg in our face, but at this point, it's not the way I would be going about it. I love him in the setup. I love him in playing Test cricket because too many players of this kind of caliber just go, you know what, I'm gonna play the white ball stuff and throw flames.
But the other thing is normally, Tim, you get batters in Test matches bat lower and then get promoted in the shorter formats, right?
Yeah.
I'd have loved him to bat at 3 in the ODI setup, not this, right? This is, look, he's got just like Vian and Marco, ceiling very high, very, very high. It's like an old Joburg house, high ceilings, beautiful, amazing. But give me someone who's done the job there. At least reward someone who's done the job there domestically, you know. And that's the thing. You're going to carry 6 batters anyway, right? You're probably going to carry 7 because you're going to promote Vian to 6 and Calverin's going to bat at 7. There is no harm. But here's the thing. Is Tristan that important that he needs to be in the 11 for you?
To Shukri he is. No, not to me, no.
No, to you, Tim.
No, he isn't. No.
Because you've got Timber at 4.
Yeah.
So here's my thing. Why don't you then tell Timber to bat at 3? Timber 3, Bellingham 4, Tristan 5. But Shukri wants it the other way around.
It could be, and I Timber can send me a DM and say I'm talking rubbish with pleasure. But it could be a similar situation where they tried to move Joe Root. Joe Root was like, 4 is my position, and I'm not moving. When England was struggling with their middle orders and they were trying to persuade him to go up 1, and he was like, no, not happening. I like that.
Well, it makes sense. He's a senior player, right?
It might be a senior player, captaincy kind of thing.
Okay.
Pulling rank.
Look. So what I want to say about this team, it's Shukri's favorites. Shukri's favorite boys. It's all it is. It's all his favorites. It's all the PAs he's loved. And we hope he wins. My only issue is when you don't win, we're gonna come back here and be like, hey, we're making these decisions. And this is the one Test side outside of New Zealand. I think this is more questions than New Zealand. At least with the New Zealand Test side, you're like, he's got nobody to pick. And we're fighting over fast bowlers, right? Yeah, you're sitting there going, there's more questions than that Test series in New Zealand. It is unbelievable. So one of the Proteas Test squad announcement. So I'm like, I don't know. I really don't know, guys. But good luck to the Proteas. Good luck to the team. They've got a Red Bull camp. And Coach Shukri, if you want to come on and let us know about your friends, please do. This looks Ryder Cup-ish with Zach and his mates. This is Shukri and his mates. It's, with all due respect, that's what it is. This is the, if there ever was any messaging I should take out of this, is be friends with Shukri. That's all it is. Because numbers doesn't move you, then what is? And I think you just gave us Ryan Rickleton because everyone was asking about him. And then you chose Matthew Bretsky as well because everyone was asking for him. But at the end of the day, you probably wouldn't have selected them. But then the question is, do we then have to ask for Bayer Swanepoel in order for him to get a game? The guy who's taken the most wickets since this reorganization. Do we need to then start asking you questions about him? Do we need to ask questions about Oguhle Kele? From the Dolphins, who's had a phenomenal season after injury. The guy you should have taken to New Zealand, but you didn't want to, because somehow all this tells me is you don't look at domestic cricket. That's all it tells me. Trying to shoehorn in a player with immeasurable talent just because he needs to be in your side. But he doesn't play at 3. Like, the easy answer here, Tim, is Rickleton opens, Dzozi at 2, Aiden at 3. But then there's no snub.
Yeah.
That's the easy answer.
And Shukri wants that X factor individual who can turn a game on its head. He wants that. I know what he wants. It's just he wants him at 3, not at 6.
At 3. X factor. Guys, remember the last time we were at the West Indies? Keegan Peterson was walking in at like 0 for 1 in the first over. Tristan Stubbs walking out in the first over of a match to a new ball. I respect the boy, guys. At least allow him to let the new ball just, stop moving a little bit. Respect the kid. But look, it's fine. Any other comments? Oh, yes. One big thing. Who's been left out? The big name that has been left out. Obviously, we spoke about Bayer Swanepoel, Simon Harmer. Anybody else from a batting perspective who's left out?
I don't think so. That I can think of off the top of my head. And I think in terms of personnel, I think he's got it right. There are plenty of questions we've raised in the bowling, and I tried to put a positive spin on it for Shukri as much as I could. But in terms of the batting, I don't think there's anybody that I can think of. No, I can't think of anyone at the moment.
Oh, look, he's taken the Western Province duo. He's brought in Carl Verena. No, Ryan Rickleton from the Lions, who really did well last season. So, you got to give him that. But the question obviously is, I do not know where this team is going.
Yeah, exactly. The point that you made earlier is what direction are we going in? And that is very valid point. It's still early days. Shukri did actually touch on this. He said in the first series he saw the team for 2 days, and then India he saw them for like another 2 days. So he hasn't, in terms of that, he hasn't been in the job a long time in terms of that. In terms of getting the players together and that kind of thing. But it does go back to what you touched on. What direction are we going in? Is Dane Pete going to be there for the next for this cycle? Is Dane Pete going to be there for the cycle? Is Dane Patterson going to be there for the World Test Championship cycle? Those are valid points. And what does it say about young, fast bowlers coming through in the system, which they are? What are you saying to them? Are you saying sorry, but the door is closed for now. So it's a valid point. The other thing I wanted to touch on is what we have been discussed a few podcasts ago was this, to me, just exposes the importance of somebody in between.
A selection panel.
Just one person. It doesn't need a whole bunch of 6 people around the table. It needs one individual.
Isn't that individual Enoch Nkwe?
No. Enoch Nkwe covers everything. The whole breadth of South African cricket. I think you need somebody.
Rob Key, when McCallum sends him, Rob Key and McCallum discuss the test teams that are being selected for the thing, because that's the director of cricket role, right, in the UK for England. Why can't Enoch do that? I thought that was his job.
I still think we need someone in the middle.
Let me tell you what I think. Shuki's complaining that he, has had 2 days, 4 days. I was like, no, dude, you've had a year. You can't tell me that you can't organize a camp, a 3-day thing, even if it's via Zoom. You tell me you can't go watch these players play around the country in domestic cricket and talk to them if you want to have time with them. Because Temba's available. Temba's been playing domestic cricket, right? Ryan's been playing domestic cricket. A lot of these players you've somehow either selected or not have been here in South Africa. You can't tell me that it's hard for you to pick a direction. It's on YouTube. You can sit and watch like we do and make notes and go and ask questions. You have every resource available to you to make the best decision. And we come up with a list of guys where we're still sitting here going, oh no, that's Shukri's guy. That guy's got character. That guy's doing this. It doesn't mean anything to the numbers. The numbers actually don't matter. But a guy's taken 700 wickets over the last 10 years. And you're leaving him out. Why? I don't know. You've got a guy who's on a rich vein of form in domestic cricket and nearly got the Dolphins in the final, yet he's not selected. You got a guy who's also been taking wickets throughout the last 3 years in domestic cricket as a fast bowler. Delstein swears by him. No, I don't need him. I don't need another person to remind him, because at the end of the day, Shukri's head coach is going to be like, it's fine. I'd rather have a panel of guys going, no, dude, this is what the numbers say. If not, if you don't want the panel, he must walk, he must go. He must get in his car, must drive. He must go and watch. Because there's a lot more you can get from watching than just picking guys on character. Like, it's fine. It's okay. That's my Monday rant. Maybe I'm still angry at the World Cup loss. Maybe I'm still angry at the World Cup loss.
I agree with you. I do agree with you.
This World Test Championship was supposed to be ours. We have the easiest schedule. We don't play England. We don't play Australia. We drew against India. And New Zealand was going through whatever they were going through. And we sent a dud team to Australia. And then we've got Bangladesh, we've got Pakistan, and we're trying to align it. We've got the West Indies. We're trying to realign this campaign to get us to Lords next year. And this man gives us a test squad like this. And then he's resting Marco Jansen. What? For competition. But you're not resting Kagiso. Guys, I don't know. Maybe I'm the only one in South Africa who wants to win the World Test Championship. But yeah, clearly CSA needs to let us know if we that I shouldn't care about it, because clearly nobody cares about the World Test Championship here, Tim. Nobody cares. Nobody cares at all. Like, we're not going to get a cycle like this again, Tim. We've got Australia in the next cycle. We're probably going to get England in the next cycle. And we're done for.
I think, yeah. Well, Hookery is taking a risk. There's no doubt about it. He's taking a risk in the selection that he's taken. I still think it will come out right. I still think we will win the series. We will do a preview of the series. We'll have to wait and see. But I did say at the beginning when his tenure started, I said
you did.
needs a sounding board. Somebody tell him that you can't just do everything you want. You can't.
Well, he
cannot.
He can. And Dane Pete, my man, well done. Oh yes, I like seeing you in green and gold. You give us a lot, and yeah, it's just all of these things are just no direction. But Dane, welcome back. I was worried about your international future and letting go of the whole American thing, but clearly you had a plan and you knew what we were doing, and yeah, there's nothing I can fault you for that. You're available when others weren't, and availability, the best ability is availability, and that's the selection of the Danes. They were available when we needed them.
Just the one touch thing very quickly. As of last year, England had a selector. Head selector in Luke Wright. I don't know if that's still the case. So there is a guy in between.
Okay.
So they have somebody in between. As of last year, I don't know if that's still the case, but
okay, we've ventilated this enough. Good luck to the Proteas. The Proteas play the West Indies, I think, on the back end of July. So that's going to be quite interesting. But they've got a red ball camp starting, I think, this week, up until the 19th. And then the team will leave to the Caribbean. There are a lot of players already that side playing in the Major League Cricket. So you can catch them there. Please remember to like and subscribe for the Full Quota podcast on YouTube. Subscribing and liking helps us. Subscribing helps you know when we go on next. Please follow us at Full Quota Pod on X. That'll be very helpful to you as well. We are becoming a more of a vibrant social media platform, which is really, really awesome. And then remember, if you just love the audio, Apple Podcasts and Spotify at Full Quota Podcast, please find us there. Outside of that, have a great day. Goodbye and lesale kakahiso.